Hey, y'all ready to see something weird? So, I have actually never experienced this. Apparently, it is somewhat popular, but watch this real quick. That is well over 200 effect resist, so that was an effectiveness Zeo. So yeah, we're going into a Zeo, Savior Adin, and an Ahmed. So I initially thought, oh yeah, so this is going to be 2 DPS, right? But it's actually going to be 2 supports and 1 DPS. Because when you see this Zeo actually go in and start attacking, at first I thought, okay, well maybe he just has a bunch of effectiveness, maybe he has... maybe he has, Melissa's artifact for that extra effectiveness. I don't know. I didn't know what I was dealing with here. So I went in with Armin, Shadow Knight Pyllis, and Destina, just for kind of safety and also for just mitigating damage, because I was expecting, hey, the Savior Aiden's probably going to hit like a truck, the Zeo's also probably going to hit like a truck, and... wow, that didn't even break the barrier. So at first I'm like, okay, so wait a second. I actually want to see this damage for myself. So I'm going to attempt to go into him, get a provoke, and I want to see this damage on Pyllis. This didn't even crit. So yeah, this is strictly an effectiveness Zeo. You don't see those very often, but they are absolutely detrimental in an RTA setting, because one, who's going to speed contest Zeo? Not very many people want to try that. You can do it if you happen to have a 315, 320 Ran or something like that, but you're then at the mercy of speed RNG, and also straight up, Zeos, if they really want to, they can go higher than 250 speed, and you're just never going to beat them just because of how high they're going to get on their first turn. But so yeah, now I've seen this and I'm like, okay, so I want to go ahead and kill Zeo now, because if I'm dealing with an effectiveness monster, he could silence at any moment, and then that means that the Savior Adin is the one who's actually doing the damage. So what I'm going for is hey, let's just go ahead and wail on Zeo. He's not really a threat. He doesn't do big damage, and he's only an effectiveness bot. And his big effectiveness hit is the silence that's on his S3, which, straight up, not very often you see a Zeo that does more damage on his S3 than he does on his S1 and S1 follow-up. I don't think I've ever personally experienced that. So, hey... That's all she wrote on that. So we've gotten rid of probably the most annoying element of the fight. So now we just have to deal with Ahmed and Savior Adin as we go. So right here, this was kind of a mistake because I went for the damage there. But hey, Adin does so much damage anyway. She's going to heal all that up with her S1 because she just, oh, okay, I just heal. I don't need a lifesteal set. LOL. And then also Ahmed is just going to be constantly doing the skill nulls. Easily the stupidest buff in the game. Well, okay, that's not true. There's a lot of dumb shit now, but I don't know, man. Skill null is still kind of crazy. It's the only skill. It's the only buff in the game that has no actual counter to it, and I think that's kind of ridiculous. Straight up, skill null will be there forever until you hit them, and I just think that's kind of stupid. But whatever. That's just how it's always been.
Don't be afraid.
So. Basically, yeah, the goal is, because we can't really deal enough damage to Savior Adin, and we're trying to prevent her AoE from happening at all times, because that just drains 5 souls. Because, Savior Adin just needs to be fucking stupid. Yeah, whatever, man. Just make this character dumb as shit. So, now that we only have Savior Adin, this is going to happen, but of course, it's only 5 souls. So, we can still burn. So, if we can burn with Shadow Knight Pyllis, we'll be able to S3, and then we'll be able to S3 again. And right here with this nice big boost, we should be able to go back to back. In fact, this is actually going to kill because Armin hit her. She doesn't have skill null anymore. So hey, Shazam, easy peasy. Now, rematch numero dos. We're going into a Ran, Lilias, and a Senya comp. Now, this was another example of whoever was setting up the defense. They didn't speed tune properly. Anytime I see a Lilias and a Senya, I'm always going to expect that the Senya is going to be first, so that you get the attack buff, because this one is actually rocking the greater attack buff EE. So, because of that, this Lilias does nothing. Look at this damage. That's nothing. That's nothing at all. So, you're basically going into a cleanser and just an attacker. So, the only real kind of threat is Ran. So I just decided, hey, we're dealing with 3 AoE attackers. They're not super consistent, but hey, Ran might go crazy with Arc RNL or whatever. but I don't think he really does. I don't even think this dude's rocking RNL. I think it was like I think it was Vildred's artifact. But with that being said, we're going to bring LRK, Christy, and Roana. I brought Christy just in case this was like an effectiveness monster ran. Now, get this. There is an effectiveness monster on this team. You just haven't seen it yet. I was not prepared whenever I saw it. And let me know when you see it. Which it should be right here. What the fuck is that? So, that was like easily 120, 150 something effectiveness on that Senya, because I'm rocking like somewhere in the 180 effect resist ranges of my Roana. So yeah, the actual effectiveness monster is Senya. So this really ultimately means like this team's not going to do a lot of damage. Yeah, the Senya has Gab, but even with Gab, she's probably sacrificing a lot of attack just to have an effectiveness stat that is that high. And I mean, I'm going into this pretty much full anti-AoE, and the biggest thing that I was trying to prevent was the Strip and the Death Break that Rand can do. And hey, we have two pretty high effective resist units that are also element advantage against him, so that's 2 greens. The chances of them being hit, very, very low. And then Krau, he already has 100 effect resist. Throw Christy on there, that's 200. So, unless you're an effectiveness monster, you're not going to touch me. And that's pretty much the goal in which I go through this. So, there's one other thing that this guy was also doing. So, he's rocking an effectiveness monster Senya. So what artifact do you think he has? Holy sack. So, everything this dude's doing makes a lot of sense. Because he's wanting to try and do some provoke locking. Probably had Gab for the sake of like, oh hey, cool, let's provoke them to go into her, and then we'll just do counter damage. Like, that's obviously what he was trying to do. But like, I don't know, with the setup that I had right here, Roana is just going to be constantly healing through any and all counterattack shenanigans, anything that Lilias would do when it comes to pulling units. Christy there providing the effect resist onto LRK. He doesn't ever have to worry about anything. And the only effectiveness monster was actually Senya. So, yeah, there's just a very, very severe lack of damage on the team. And with that said, that is this round. Let's see what's next. Could it possibly be something I never expected? Why, yes, it is. So this is Conqueror Lilias, Savior Adin, and Belian. Now, I was not expecting this in the fucking slightest. That was fucking 18k on a hit with no attack buff and only vigor. I don't think I've ever been hit that hard by a Savior Adin, ever. I think I've only ever been hit that hard... Oh yeah, and right here, because Elbrus procced, that was my only chance of actually saving Shadow Knight Pyllis, because if you provoke and you hit something that you provoke with your S3, it actually boosts the CR bar on the left. I would have then taken that opportunity to use Roana, do an S3, and then I would have been fine. But because Elbrus procced, because this game fucking sucks, now we lost Shadow Knight Pyllis. So we lost our big dark bait. Which, hey, sucks. Thankfully, we were able to get the hit on Lionheart Cermia onto Savior Adin, so hey, we're actually good to go. And also, this Belian is not running injury. So because the Belian's not on injury, the fight's free. So basically, we're just going to be seeing a whole bunch of Lionheart Cermia proccing turn after turn after turn after turn, and this is where like I can honestly feel. It kind of feels like Lionheart Cermia needs some kind of a buff, because in this particular situation, yes, you will win. You'll win the battle of attrition because you're just constantly doing your S3s over and over again. It does kind of suck that like you have to wait a turn for the cooldown to be like reset, because basically you're dealing with extra turn shenanigans, things of the nature that proc Lionheart Cermia. It's all luck, unless you're going into next level dumb shit like Conqueror Lilias, or units that forcibly bring units, or units like Belian that do additional attacks. So that's what kind of sucks about her, because sometimes that'll happen, but you already did your S2 like activation. Like, let's say we already did the S2 activation for It's Far From Over. So if I were to hit now and she counterattacks right here, well, guess what? You don't get that boost again. And the only way you can get Fighting Spirit on Lionheart is you have to attack with the S1, and you have to, like, and you get that big boost anytime like an additional attack happens or a counter attack, like all that other shit. So like that's the one thing that kind of sucks about Lionheart Cermia, and also just the fact is she cannot 1v1 Apocalypse Ravi. She just can't. Like, yeah, you can go with as much defense as possible, but like it's really hard to hit those proper stat lines on lifesteal gear. So you can have like, you know, decent HP, really high defense, very high crit and crit damage. And honestly, an Ravi is just going to slowly go into you with injury, and you will eventually get killed. Like, Ravi as an anchor can absolutely destroy a Lionheart Cermia, which is why you almost never see me use her, because, hey, who do we happen to be fighting in almost every fucking one of these videos? It happens to be Apocalypse Ravi. LOL. But, yeah. This is like the one thing that kind of sucks about this fight. It kind of feels like it's dragging. We're actually going at a fairly decent pace, because like I've had way worse my fights before, where I'd go down to like 40 turns remaining or 30 turns remaining, which just stuff that I know I'm going to win. But like this one feels like it's dragging because the Conqueror Lilias is also rocking that horrible fucking artifact, the one that the music box artifact, and it just like keeps giving things like defense, keeps giving things like HP. And then there's Belian, who also just, like, can possibly give herself HP recovery on her turn. It's just a bunch of, like, annoying shit. So, like, if anything, the biggest surprise here was Savior Adin. That was easily probably one of the strongest Savior Adins I've ever seen in a random fight. Now, I see Shuna, I see Magic Scholar Doris, and I see Inferno Khawazu. Looks like we're going into some AoE shit. So, there's Apocalypse Ravi, Politis, and ae-KARINA. So, there's actually not that much AoE stuff. In fact, I made a miscalculation right here. I thought that I would actually get the opportunity to go into... Like, I didn't think Politis would be first. But, like, hey, whatever. We still got our attack off here, so we can at least throw this into ae-KARINA. It's not going to kill, but it's going to do a lot of damage. And we also... didn't get the additional burn, which is the artifact. Sucks. And thankfully, I took just enough damage that I didn't get myself killed. I was getting a little bit worried with all the extra AoE stuff that I was taking, because one, you had the ae-KARINA. She goes in, does the additional damage on the whole team with the S3. Then there was Politis going in with one, not only the S3, but also the S2, because my Inferno Khawazu procced. And then I had to go through a S3 with Apocalypse Ravi onto my Doris. Thankfully, I treat my Doris very, very well, and I give her very, very good defensive gear. I like my Doris a lot. And because of that, we were able to survive this. Now, this is a small tower. There is a possibility that maybe the Apocalypse Ravi didn't have like the highest of stats, because I can't quite remember off the top of my head if this Apocalypse Ravi is running counter, or if she's like speed, or if she's crit damage. I don't know. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Now that we got rid of ae-KARINA, we can just focus on going into the Apocalypse Ravi, because we want to keep the Politis around just for the sake of proccing the Vigor that's on Inferno Khawazu. Now, the only reason why we're doing that is just so we can get guaranteed burns, because you never know, whenever you're going into Apocalypse Ravi, just how much effect resist she really has. You just really never know. Now, thankfully, this one, I don't think it was too terribly high, but like, either way, we're going to go into this and we'll see just how much damage we do. It's actually a fairly decent amount, because this is also a Proof of Valor Ravi, so she doesn't take as much damage, but hey, still kind of works out. Now, all we have to do is we just have to keep cycling our turn. I had to burn this heal on Doris because I was a little bit concerned about my HP, because I mean, hey, we're still dealing with Apocalypse Ravi, and Apocalypse Ravi's no fucking joke, especially if you don't have injury. Because if you don't have injury, you have to either be able to one-tap her, or you have to be able to neutralize her, which is usually like Sylvan Sage Vivian or Magic Scholar Doris, depending on their other team that you're fighting. So, for this one, I brought Shuna strictly to tank the ae-KARINA. I brought Magic Scholar Doris strictly to tank the Apocalypse Ravi. And hey, looky there, she's almost dead. So, we have our turn here with Inferno Khawazu. I didn't think this first attack was going to kill. It didn't. So then I put a burn on her, and then I just decided to throw away the S3 again, because we're not dealing with Crimson Seed or any of that shit, so there are debuffs there. And now all we have left is Politis. So with Politis being the only one remaining, we're good to go. Now, it's a little bit disappointing because I don't think I managed to get my S3 off on her again with Inferno Khawazu. It kind of sucks when that happens, but hey, as far as I'm concerned, this is a win. So, get ready for the next round that's coming up soon. Basically, you're going to see a perfectly tailor-made example of why Benimaru is actually not very good. It kind of sucks, but like, hey, this is where I say straight up, Benimaru needs a buff. And I'll kind of try to go in and get into it a little bit here. So, hey, we're going into Peira, Mercedes, and Apocalypse Ravi. So I was like, okay, so let's try Benimaru because he supposedly kind of counters this. Now, here's your problem. So I'm going to go into Apocalypse Ravi first, hope for a Death Break, and then I'm going to kill her with Hellflare. Oh, no! Magic for friends? Oh, well, rip that idea. So now I have Spirit Eye Celine here. We're going to do a quick revive, and we're going to see what we can do here. So when you revive, Benimaru does not have multi-layer barrier, and he maintains his fighting spirit. So he doesn't have multi-layer barrier, so the damage is reduced on Hellflare if you can manage to get Hellflare. So what I have to do is I have to attack with him one more time, and we should be good to go. Now, we've already taken an astronomical hit just from that Magic for Friends. I fucking hate Mercedes, dude. Because even if you brought Astromancer Elena, Magic for Friends isn't a counterattack. It doesn't count. It's really dumb. And hey, looky there. I got hit with a stun. So, right here, also, like, the lack of... And also that Mercedes was also counter. So, here's the thing. Benimaru, he needs a buff. Like, multi-layer barrier, give me a barrier to go with that, or give me skill null, something. Because the way in which he functions, it's just too fragile. But, I'll talk more about that in a minute. But, like, right here we have Roana, Armin, and Last Rider Krau going into Belian, Choux, and a Conqueror Lilias. So, what I wanted to do here was I wanted to see just how effective Last Rider Krau can really be, both without defense buff, because he's never going to get it throughout the whole fight, into like a Choux comp. So we have Belian, who's going to be going non-stop into us. By the by, this Belian is on counter. I don't think I even know what this thing is, like if it's on injury yet or not. I think I could tell right now because my Armin didn't have a barrier, but like either way, it doesn't matter. That's just me being not very observing whenever I'm watching this stuff, because we're going into Belian, Choux, and Conqueror Lilias. Now, Conqueror Lilias is always going to get us, like, heals, because she could possibly go into either of my greens, or she could go into my LRK. Now, the problem is you can't guarantee who's going into what except for Choux. Choux is always going to go into Last Rider Krau. So, that's good, because you could get a, like, S1, S2, like, that's just more cooldown count. And then, like, every time Belian goes, you get 2 turn cooldowns. So... And, like, right there, that was 2 really, really strong hits. Thankfully, like, Armin's on the team, and the reason why Armin's there, Armin just straight up makes it super, super valuable. Like, anytime you're taking single target attacks, it just nerfs the damage by 20%. Very, very nice. And then now, LRK has Crown of Glory. Now, Crown of Glory also reduces damage that your AoE attacks, that the AoE attacks are doing to him. So we're basically going into this with full damage mitigation. Like, so yeah, we have damage mitigation against AoE attacks, we have damage mitigation against single attacks, and we're just going to be zooming like crazy with LRK. Sure, we can't soul burn yet, because Belian is a stupid fucking character, but, like, hey, this is actually quite safe. So yeah, we don't have, like, a means of revival if someone already dies, because you have to have the revive buff with Roana. Kind of sucks, but, like, honestly, I think... If they ever were to buff Roana to a point where she can revive the dead, I think Roana would actually be like the most broken Soul Weaver in the game. So yeah, maybe don't do that. If there was anything that I would like for Roana to have, I don't know, some kind of cleansing capability of some kind. That's really about it. Or hell, if you want to just buffer barriers even more, shit, I don't care. Go for it. But when it comes to, like, this team right here, like, what's kind of distressing is I'm pretty positive that the Choux has the highest HP, so she keeps getting the barrier from C. Lilias. So, like, Choux is pretty much at full HP throughout this whole fight. Kind of sucks, but, like, hey, it actually makes for a very, very good test. Because, like I said, we're going into a Choux just to see, like, hey, how effective can we deal with LRK as the tank? Now, One other thing that also kind of sucks here, I wasn't able to do a I wasn't able to do a bit like all 3 big towers. I was kind of late to this Guild War whenever I did it. So all of these are small towers. So I don't know how effective in terms of stats this Choux actually is. I know she's pretty hefty on the HP range, but she does actually lack some crit, because a couple of times I see her go into LRK and she doesn't crit. So it's kind of hard to say. Maybe she's rocking like absurd crit damage. Maybe she's at 99 crit, and maybe like, you know, it's the occasional one. Because, you know, you either have 100% crit or you have 50% crit. That's just kind of the way it is, isn't it? But yeah, with that said, now all we have left is Choux, because anytime Belian went into you, it just gave Krau bukus and bukus of cooldown count. And just the more you're able to get that S3 off, the better off you're going to be. Good God, man. The buffs that LRK got, it was so simple. So simple. Oh, let's just change up like the S3 pretty much so that you gain cooldown count for more than just AoE attacks. That's all he needed, man. That is all he fucking needed. And he is just so good now. And after I rebuilt him, I'm very, very happy with my LRK. I would like to have perhaps maybe like another 3,000 or so HP, but like, hey, man, I'll get to it whenever I get to it. That's just, you know, the way it is. Gearing is a oh-so-wonderful process of Epic 7 of, hey, do you have the entire day to craft gear? Well, technically today I do, but you know what else we have to do? RTA is going to end in a few days. So with that, I'm going to be busy. And hey, looky there, the fight's over. So, with that said, that's the Guild War, folks. Hooray! So yeah, like I was saying before about Benimaru, yeah, the big thing that he needs, in all honesty, hey, if you want to stay like true to lore, I guess, of the character, because he has a skill called multi-layer barrier, why not just give him a barrier anytime like anytime a extra turn skill thing pops up? Like, that's either give him a barrier or give him a skill null, because straight up, the way in which he functions is he's a punish character for if you obtain an extra turn. So if the enemy gets an extra turn, then he gains his stuff, and then he boosts up on the CR bar so that he can, you know, get to his turn to just like wipe out the team. So in an RTA setting, that's a huge weakness, because all you have to do is just not proc an extra turn, and then straight up Benimaru just kind of sits there, and then you can just kill him. Now, for Guild War, it's also a problem. Because anytime you go in with, like, you know, you go in attempting to do the thing you're supposed to do, like you're fighting Conqueror Lilias or whatever. So if there's any kind of unit on that team that procs counterattacks whenever you're not hitting them or you are hitting them, you know, anything like that. So any kind of counterattack kind of proc could possibly really fuck him over. Mainly Mercedes, because you can't Astromancer Elena that. Like, you can't deal with Magic for Friends that way, because LOL, not a counterattack. It's the stupidest fucking shit. But, like, the thing that I feel like Benimaru really needs, it feels like he just needs skill null or like a berry. He just needs survivability. But hey, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like. I really, really would appreciate it. It makes me happy. And if you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.